I don't feel like what I do is a job. I don't feel that it is work. I genuinely love what I do. It gets me up out of bed every morning. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a human like everyone else. There is times in life where, winter blues and things like that. But I genuinely love what I do. I love going into work every day, seeing the young people that I work with. I'm in a fortunate position amongst the Boxing Club. I work with all. I work with the mums, the dads, the grannies, the grandas, the kids. I work with everyone. We're part of the community within Monkstown Boxing Club. And I love that.
Welcome to Workplus, the podcast that shines a light on the people doing good work across Northern Ireland. I'm your host, Richard Kirk, founder of Workplus. I've spent years working with employers, schools, colleges and universities, helping young people and career changers to make better informed career decisions. Each week, I sit down with real people doing real jobs to explore how they got there, what they've learned, and why their work matters. If you're a parent, teacher, carer, or just curious about what good work looks like today, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Nathan, great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure as always.
Tell us a bit about what Monkstown Boxing Club's about, what might it look like for a newcomer coming on their first day to the club.
So, Monkstown Boxing Club, obviously, everyone thinks it's just boxing. Our slogan is not just a boxing club. We do sort of everything. We work from ages 8 right up till 80. Or older, but the saying is 8 to 80. But a normal day sort of for the boxing club starts from 8 o'clock in the morning. So every morning we would have a breakfast club from 8 to 9 for the kids from Abbey Community College or anyone in the community want to get a breakfast before they head to school. Then from sort of throughout the day, we've got our alternative education programme. Where 5th years in partnership Abbey Community College will come to us to do GCSEs or equivalents.
Brilliant.
But also throughout the day. So for example, I'll give you a Monday for an example. But obviously start off on a Monday morning. You would then have breakfast club in your corner programme IYC in partnership Abbey Community College. But also throughout the day, we would have our over 50s sessions. We would have mums coming in to do sessions with one of our personal trainers. In the evenings, we would have our boxing. Even before the evenings, we'd have after schools and we'd have boxing. And then we would also have 2 sets of groups. So we'd have our twilight group and our evening group, which could be a range of whatever's going on in the community. So whether it be a young men's group, good relations group, life skills group, whatever it might be.
Okay, so there's a really good range of things going on. It's a real hub in the community.
So it's a variety, and that's just one day. Throughout the year, we sort of interact with around 500 young people.
Brilliant.
So it's just from a variety of ages.
And how did it all get started then at MBC? How did it start?
So obviously I've only been in the club for the last sort of 2 years. So I'm relatively new in a sense. 2.5 years I'm relatively new, but the club's been going for over 40 years and almost 42 years now. So it started off in the local community centre as a boxing club. Was a boxing club for some time. And then around 2012, National Lottery funded. There was funding out there because there was a need seen for, in particular, young Protestant males who weren't achieving GCSEs and were falling behind, and that there was lottery funding out there to help sort of bridge the gap. Which our sort of director now he changed his job title, but he applied for National Lottery funding, and from 2012, that's when the youth sort of side of things sort of developed and flourished within Monkstown Boxing Club. And from then it's just been 2 extensions. It's been a marquee, a porta cabin, plan permission for a new building. So it's just been from that idea that Paul and a few others had in the board to what it is now, 13 years later. It's just been brilliant. It's been a journey that's been sort of progressing. Yeah. And he doesn't like the credit, but Paul, Mr. Johnson's been one of the biggest pilots behind it all.
Brilliant.
Yes.
So for you then, you've been there a couple of years.
Yeah,
so tell us a bit more about your role then. What's that entail?
So my role within the boxing club, I'm funded through National Lottery as well. We've been lucky enough to have National Lottery funding from 2012, but I'm funded through National Lottery as a life skills coach. I know I'm a youth worker at heart, but my official title is life skills coach. So what I do is I work with young people aged 16 to 24. And as part of that role, my 2 main focuses are employability and well-being. Most importantly, the well-being of young people, because if they aren't at a stage in their lives to go into employability, then it won't necessarily work for them. But for me, they're the 2 main strands: employability and well-being. I work with young people from all different walks of life. Young people coming to me, whether it be just needing support, someone to talk to, or someone who's ready just to interview prep and get ready for that job that they've had their eyes on for a long time, just need help with that interview, the next stage. So for me, I'm just sort of working with young people's that and getting them to the next stage and hoping all well-being that the next stage is employment or something that's going to progress and better themselves.
Great.
Yeah.
And what are some of the challenges that you're seeing young people coming through with then whenever you're meeting them at those early days?
So the early days, a lot of young people, because there's a stigmatism around, or a stigma around sort of social media, all that sort of stuff, and especially post-COVID, a lot of young people struggle with their confidence. You know, I find a lot of young people, simple stuff like phoning employers. Really, really struggle with phoning an employer. You know, I've unfortunately had young people where they've had the opportunity to go on and progress in the apprenticeship. The apprenticeship doesn't, the employer doesn't want to hear from mummy, granny, dad, whatever. They don't want to hear from them. They want to hear from the young person. And the young person hasn't had the confidence to phone up and say, hi, I'm actually interested in X, Y, and Z. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've faced. But also, recently I've found young people are struggling to sort of see that they've got the ability, like they've got the qualifications, they've got the ability to do stuff, but they're struggling to see that they can achieve these things. And it's throughout my role, what I do is I just try and break it down. So something simple, and I always use this example is young people look at a job title and go, oh, there's no way. I couldn't work in that job. But actually, if you look at the roles and responsibilities, they meet every single one of them. They can meet all the criteria, but it's just this job title. They're scared to go past the job title sometimes because it scares them. You know, something engineer or manager of X, Y, and Z or whatever it might be. They'd be like, oh, you know, it's that working class mentality of young people. And unfortunately, I work in an area where there's that cycle, you know, and some young people are scared to sort of go outside of that cycle because they're just used to that sort of routine of parents and grandparents doing the same thing and they want to follow footsteps. Whenever they see this big job title, it's that automatically that notion in their head that I'm not able to do that. I'm not high enough up to do that. I couldn't do that. But actually, they meet the criteria a million times over. So they do, you know, they look at it and go, need maths and English, but actually the job takes essential skills. It doesn't just take GCSE, it takes all these different things. So yeah, I think that's the challenges is. It's just getting young people to understand that they've got the ability to do this. They've got the confidence to do this. They just need that. It's like an onion, just need a couple of layers peeled away to get them real selves out. And I think that's what it is. It's just getting young people ready. And it is a challenge, you know, but it's part of the job. And I think that's what we do within Monkstown Boxing Club is just, it's all about the young person. It's about building them up no matter what stage they're at in life. And as part of my role, you know, there's so many different, so obviously I work with young people who come to me for support, but I also work with young people from every single branch within Monkstown Boxing Club. So I do work with the boxers, I do work with the Abbey students, I do work with, you know, I know it's not technically within my funding, but I've done a CV for a 68-year-old before, you know, someone who was working for so long and then wanted to change and do something different. You know, so there's so many different things I could help with.
Brilliant.
And I know, I love it.
You talked there about the young people not feeling confident to be able to see beyond that job title. Do you think there's more that employers could do to try and help young people or people of all ages to be able to understand their jobs better?
I think, you know, I think like one thing we've always talked about, I think a lot of people think about the same thing, is there's that sort of gap in a sense between employers and employees or potential recruits. You know, young people employers are always saying like, oh, I couldn't get people to fill this position, or, you know, we're struggling with getting apprentices in. And then young people are being like, oh, I don't know if I've got the ability to do this. There's simple things like, you know, maybe doing an open tour workshop or offering work experience for young people. You know, the amount of times that we've went to people we've went and says, we've got 10 students here willing to do work experience in X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people turn around and says no. And I think just giving young people that taste, you know, send them out for a couple of days in the overalls, in the shirt and tie, whatever it may be, giving them that taste of being like, this is what it's like. You've actually got the ability to do it. This is how you get there, and this is what it looks like. And I think just giving the young people that opportunity to walk through the doors, because it can be scary. You know what it's like. It's like everyone's been through that experience of going from primary school to first year, and you walk in and you go, whoa. There's 1,000 students here instead of our 100 students that we're in. So it's like that whenever they're transitioning from school to employment. So you go from the small fish into a big pond. And it's just getting past that barrier of walking through those doors for young people. And I think if employers opened up and were a bit more open to letting young people walk through, and even just half a day seeing, or just simple things. And I know we have talked about that quite a few times in different conversations. And we've tried about, but it's just trying to get the employers on board. And I think it'd be amazing. And I know employers are stretched in terms of what they can offer. And there's people out there to make money, and there's different avenues. But I think long term, if employers were to come together and there was like maybe a pilot, or there was different, I know there's different work experience programs, but if there was a pilot for young people to go and do taster days while they're in school, or different things as part of work experience, I think in the long run, that would benefit employers.
Yeah, definitely. Good. I love that. We'll have to explore that further as well.
Yeah.
So you talked about young people not having confidence. What gave you the confidence to step out and to become a youth worker? What's your journey? How did that all come about?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. We always talk about the Youth Work Shield. And whenever I was 16, 17, whenever I started getting into youth work, I wasn't confident at all. Like I was the one who sat in the corner, and I only spoke to you whenever I was spoken to. I wouldn't have made eye contact. I wouldn't. So I think it was just a gradual thing over time. And for me, it was having those right people around me. Everyone always talks about, Nathan, whenever you get into youth work. So I started volunteering whenever I was 16. And I was fortunate enough, my first paid role was 2015 whenever I was 18. But that 2-year span and getting me ready, I was surrounded by mentors. I was surrounded by people I could bounce off. I changed friendship groups, all these different things. But even right now to this point, there's probably 2 youth workers that I could tell you, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be sitting with Monkstown Boxing Club's uniform on, being a youth worker almost 11 years, it just wouldn't be possible. But it's just, for me, building that confidence was having the right people around me, right youth workers, right support and right network. And they were able to point me in the right direction in terms of, so I remember sitting, I was fortunate enough where I went straight from my levels to degree. And the youth work degree, the community youth work degree is a very difficult degree to get into, because you have to do the UCAS application, but you also got your interview. And I remember even youth workers doing mock interviews with me. And I was very, very fortunate where I got it first time. But I think if it wasn't for them and sitting down for a couple of afternoons with me, going through potential questions, tell me what they were, what sort of things the topic on, not too much jargon on this or that or whatever. I think I don't think I would have been where I am today.
Brilliant.
And it was that support. It was that support of having, it's like that there, if you bother with people who's into running, you're more likely to run. If you're into people who's boxing, you're more likely to box. And I think that's what it was, just surrounding myself with the right people. And and that's what built my confidence up. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to sit and lie to you. As a youth worker, there's different versions of myself. So I've got me as a dad, I've got me as a youth worker, I've got me as myself. And I would say me as myself, I'm still not as confident as what I am as a youth worker. It's like that shield that you can bounce with me. I'd be the first person to, if my order was wrong on the table, I wouldn't say anything. Do you know what I mean? But if you put me in front of a room, or if you put me in front of young people, I'd be very confident that way.
Yeah. Well, we're all vulnerable in our own ways. And I think you're honest enough to be able to say it. Most people just try and hide that.
Yeah.
But what you've just described there in terms of those mentors getting alongside you, pointing you in the right direction. We had an apprenticeship campaign earlier this year, and I heard that exact same thing from the apprentice applicants, that you've done that for them.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about how you're actually living that out then.
Yeah.
Those young people today, like, what are some of the impacts that you've been able to make?
Well, some of the impacts, obviously, over the the applications opened in February, didn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously we've had a relationship with Workplus. I've had a relationship with Workplus now. Even before, I worked for the Monkstown Boxing Club, my previous job. So over 3.5 years, whatever it may be, I've had a relationship with Workplus, and I've seen the benefit of what you do in terms of like young people in schools and family members. It's just a traditional route of school, trade, or university. There's no And I know trade and apprenticeship, you earn as you learn. And a lot of people were saying that and going, but actually I want to do finance, or I want to do something else. Why can't I earn while I learn? So whenever I was seeing what these were doing, and I was seeing these young people I was working with who were interested in marketing, or interested in finance, were interested in environmental stuff, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for you. Whenever I was saying it to them, they're like, what are you talking about? I could earn 18,000 or whatever it is a year while doing my degree. How's that possible? So I actually worked alongside, I would say, as far as I'm aware, it's 12 young people from either the Monkstown and Rathcoole area and Abbey Community College. So different schools as well as young people within the area. And I made them aware of the opportunities that was out there that you could actually earn while learning. And young people was like, happy days, better than EMA or student finance. They were like, happy days, I'll try it. And so I sat with them. I helped them with their application, or actually setting up the portal was the first thing. Setting up the portal, helping them application, helping them sort of find what sort of roles they'd be interested, what A levels match with what they're currently wanting to do. And then whenever it came to the application, helping the application, but also some of them had interviews. So then it was doing the interview problem. Maybe, young people nowadays, I was always told growing up that no matter what job you're applying for, go in a suit. I don't know why. I was always told that. It was actually a youth worker told me that too. No matter what job you go for, go in a suit. And a lot of young people nowadays would go in jeans or a polo or whatever. So it was just about getting young people like ready, whether it be school trousers, school shirt and a nice tie, whatever. Just getting them ready for the interview. And I was fortunate enough that almost every single one of those young people got a position within Workplus.
Brilliant.
Within Workplus's apprenticeship program. Whether it be, there was some with AIB, there was some with the environmental place in Lisburn.
Yeah.
There's another one in town, but there's different ones. And those who didn't actually get a place, it wasn't because of they didn't get it successful. It was that opportunity wasn't for them, and they went different avenues.
Yeah.
But through me helping them with the Workplus steps, the application, the interview, got them ready to then open up. Maybe Workplus isn't the only one offering it. Maybe there's other places offering it. And I know one young person in particular, he was able to get he's starting an electrician apprenticeship here.
Oh, great.
And because obviously doing A levels and all that sort of stuff, he's been able to, he's got the qualifications to start tech straight away, and he's been able to find a placement. But through the skills and the time that I spent with him for the application interview, now obviously they done it all. I'm just somebody who gives them a couple of words of advice. That they take all the glory. It was them who done it. They're the ones who wrote the application. They're the ones who went to the interview and had all the nerves and the sweats before going. They've done it all, and through them and doing it all, they've been able to get into some fantastic opportunities.
Yeah,
so they have, and that's just a small bit,
But it's so important. You've had personal experience of that, and now you're doing it for others.
And I like to be quite sort of modest in the sense of every youth worker says, and I hope every youth worker says, but I would like to say that if I have an impact on one young person's life, my career has been worthwhile. And that's what I like to think. But whenever a young person says, you help me with this, I like to be like, no, it wasn't me. And I think that's what all youth workers do. Is it's not us that do it, it's you. We just sort of steered you. A lot of these young people were involved in Monkstown Boxing Club doing other programs. It was getting the soft skills up, or maybe getting involved in the young men's group where their confidence was building, where they were meeting friends, whatever. I was just at the final hurdle.
Yeah.
There was maybe 10 other youth workers before me who were doing things with them on a Tuesday night, during school, whatever it may be, mentoring. I was just the last hurdle, and that's just the joy of me working with the employability aspect. But there's so much other youth workers within Monkstown Boxing Club that helped that young person to that point.
Brilliant. So what are, in all of that, I'm hearing things like helping them build confidence, getting alongside them. Like, what are if someone's thinking about being a youth worker, like what are the qualifications and what are the skills that you need to be a great youth worker?
Yeah. So I'll start off with the qualifications, because in terms of the skills, it just depends on what area you want to go into in youth work. There's youth work interested in whether it be outdoors, whether it be community-based, whether it be digital-based. It can be so many, alternative education. It could be so many different things that you get into. But in terms of the qualification, Now, in terms of, there's OCN certified qualifications. They would go level 1, 2, and 3. For level 1 and 2 or level 2, you do the level 2 whenever you're 18, and you can essentially go part-time within youth work without qualifications.
Okay.
As long as you pass access and all that sort of checks. The level 2 can get you through. The level 3 is like if you want to be sort of part-time but have responsibilities. But there's also the avenues of progression on. So you can do your level 4, which is a University of Ulster and Youth Action partnership. They do the level 4 certificate, which is sort of, it's like a foundation degree in a sense. And then from there you can progress on the university.
On to the full degree then.
Ulster University and do the full degree. You can do, there's the postgrad route, there's the undergrad, but also that's the community youth work degree within Northern Ireland. But there's also different avenues. You can do it in Cardiff, you can do different things in Liverpool that all sort of relate exactly what you want to do.
Brilliant.
But so it's not just restricted to here. You know, it's a UK and Ireland wide thing you can do. You know, I know Cork University do different things and stuff like that there. But you know, if you want to just get into youth work and do it part-time and sort of progress up ladder, you can do it with a level 2. You know, that's a 6-month course, maybe meeting up once a week. You know, there's a certain amount of hours you have to do, learning hours you have to do to achieve it, and a booklet. But in terms of becoming a youth worker, it's achievable. You know, I know for me, the youth work degree benefited so much because whenever I was in uni, I remember the first couple of weeks it's saying, you know, relating the theory to practice. Like, no, it's just theory, you know, being a student as you were. But whenever you were sitting in that lecture and the sort of lecture was going on about this, and you were sitting going, actually, I was working with that young person, this relates. And I think it helped me sort of flourish as a youth worker because I was able to do placements and engage in different things like that.
That's good.
So I've done 3 different placements across 3 different years and stuff. And I worked across faith-based and restorative justice and restorative practices. And then I went on to the digital, which I ended up working in digital for 5 years.
That was with Bytes?
That was with the Bytes project. Yeah, I worked there for 5 years. Started off as a social media youth worker and went right up to specialist youth worker. So,
so how does what is a social media youth worker?
Social media youth worker then, that was slightly different. That was funded through Piece 4, but that was, so essentially what you done was a lot of the digital sort of side. So like everything was on an iPad, or your engagement group was through something digital, maybe through their phones, through iPads.
So not face to face then?
No, it was. It was face to face within a group, but the technology came along with it.
Oh, okay.
So if I was out doing detached on the street, there was iPads there to make young people. So I could get young people doing maybe 6 sides of me on Canva on the street, engaging them that way. So we were engaging young people with technology based on where they were.
Right.
But the social media aspect of it was then, I was part social media, doing like the posts and the trends and all that sort of stuff then, doing the youth work. But
okay, good. But a good way to get started, just like you did, is to volunteer initially. Is that gives you, what did that do for you?
So essentially, I'm going to be honest with you. For me, I had my eye set on going and doing an apprenticeship, doing a trade. And I actually had a trade set up. I was going to be an electrician. I was going to do all these different things. And I was ready to do it. And then it was around about that same time that like I started getting introduced to these sort of sessions and groups, and just started off with like going to youth club to play football or going to youth club to get, and then next thing you know, you're in a group, you were doing these and you were going on residentials and you're doing all these trips. So I started volunteering maybe 1 or 2 nights a week. And so for me, like the benefits of that was like, obviously it was a bit weird at first because I was volunteering and had a bit of responsibility and all my friends were with me. So all my peers were with me and I was like 16, 17, not telling them what to do, but it was difficult starting off because you were in a position of sort of trust and different responsibilities and stuff like that there. But I'll give you in terms of like a context of what I actually done. So I've been lucky enough to be sort of varied in terms of what I do, what I've done in the last 10 years in youth work. So I started off originally in centre-based. I was in centre-based youth clubs across sort of North and West Belfast. Started off my own estate in Glencairn, went to Mount Vernon, done a couple of things in White City, Whitewell and all that. And then I progressed on to, so throughout that time I did a couple of things with alternatives and all that sort of stuff, restorative practice. I've got a couple of qualifications in restorative practice. And that was my relationship through alternatives was one of the ones who got me in to youth work to begin with. And then through building up, and then obviously within the Bytes project. Whenever I was within the Bytes project, I worked across I worked across all Northern Ireland, whether that be in, we launched JJC, to youth hostels, temporary accommodation, to young farmers, the drop-in provision and all that sort of stuff, to then coming up the Monkstown Boxing Club, where I'm a life skills coach in a community project. And I always remember one of my lectures in university going, one day you'll figure out what you want to do in youth work. And that was one part of my journey in terms of what type of youth work do I actually want to do and how do I want to get into that stage. And that's what I was saying about earlier in terms of the different skills and different assets. You learn the skills throughout the time of doing it. And I think youth work's one of those fortunate trades is you learn by doing. You know, it's like learn how to drive. You know, you learn so much whenever you're out on the road by yourself. You learn well, you think you learn everything, but you learn more. You know, you learn so much whenever you actually get that license and you're out on the road. And I think that is the way we youth work. You know, you get your qualifications, but you learn so much by the situations that you deal with young people. You know, the behind the scenes stuff, whether it be trying to get funding and all that sorts of things, and you learn by that. And I think the skills to become a youth worker, I think one of those ones is it's not necessarily a skill, but you have to love it. You know, but if you want to become rich, don't be a youth worker because you know it's not one of those ones you're going to go and become a millionaire out of. But we get paid in other things. We get paid in seeing that young person do well. We get paid in, you know, that young person who wouldn't leave the house, coming to group 2-3 times a week.
Brilliant.
You know, or even simple stuff. You know, we get paid by that simple, just this simple thing. You know, like it's just a young person showing up. You know, that means the world to us. And there's so many examples that I could actually give of that in terms of the young people that we've worked with. It just, you know, on a Wednesday night, I work with a group of young people who's additional needs. And they went from sort of working with, they went from all of them sitting in their bedroom in the summer, 23 hours a day, only going to school, going home, sitting in their bedroom, playing their games, whatever it may be, to now, they were in this group for the last year, and now they're meeting up and going to swimmers together.
Brilliant.
You know, they're going to a park, they're meeting up and going to a park. There's things like they're texting each other on group chats, they're creating playlists on Spotify. And for me, you know, that's priceless. You know, it's just seeing kids coming out of that shell and being a better version of themselves. That for me, that's worth everything.
And
you know?
what do you think was there one switch in that has resulted in all those good outcomes now?
What happened was, so we like to be young person led. So in terms of what Monkstown Boxing Club does, it's up to the young people. Now obviously there's funding targets and sort of things like that, but the majority of stuff that we do, it's the young people who tell us what they want to do. So whenever I was delivering the program, I would have done it in 6 weeks. We would have done 6 weeks planning. So the young people would have planned for the 6 weeks ahead. And one of them was like, get to know me. So they all decided one night that they would go away for the week, create a presentation, maybe bring in their favourite toy, whatever it may be, and just tell the group about themselves. So the next thing you know, there was young people telling they were into 3D printing or model creating, or maybe their favourite film was this or that. And the next thing you know, there was a group of 10 young people who all had the same interests, didn't have a clue. And that was through their idea of, you know what, this is me telling stories. And some young people brought in presentations. Some people brought in their favourite teddy, things like that. And this was a group of young people who's 12 to 16, all had the same interests.
So good.
And it was crazy. So then they realised, actually, you like doing this? I actually go to this group on a Wednesday night in another community that does this. Do you want to come along with me? And it was the young people who then built it up. I'm going to be honest, I was just there to open and close the building. I was. But it was Monkstown Boxing Club being able to offer that space for them young people to find themselves and find this group of people. And then now they're just in wee group chats. They're all texting. We took a bit of a break because of the summer scheme of the summer. And they've been texting group chats and doing different things and sending each other updates on their holidays and stuff like that, which, you know...
That's priceless.
Yeah, priceless. Yeah. You don't think about money whenever you get things like that.
Brilliant. So are there pockets, it's great that this is happening in your area, but are there other pockets across the country that are doing similar things to...
Yeah, I find there's quite a lot. Obviously, we're unique in the sense of there's not very many boxing clubs doing what we do, but in terms of youth provision, I would say quite a lot of us are on the same sort of wavelength, you know, creating that safe environment for young people, giving a place for young people to speak freely and be themselves and stuff like that, you know, without the influence and confidence, or the influence or impact from outside things like social media and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
But everything like there is other places because like youth work's built on the value of voluntary participation. That's the main. That's the core. That's one of the core values of youth work is voluntary participation. And the young people who come through our door, they come there voluntarily. And I think that's what youth work does as a whole, all across UK and Ireland and Northern Ireland as a whole.
Yeah,
Is we all do that. We're there for the young people, regardless of where you're coming,
brilliant.
what organisation you're working for, and I think that's one thing we all align with.
Yeah,
as young people is at the heart of what we do. If you look at what youth work was, as part of my learning and that sort of stuff, I've learned about the history of youth work, where it came from, and all that, and what has progressed through. It just everyone's just leaps and bounds. And what are you saying? 10 years time, youth work's going to be a completely different thing, because you know why? The young people are going to be completely different. We're constantly changing with them and to suit them.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to see the young people coming through now that are going to be the volunteers, and then they're going to be the youth workers or the coaches of the future.
Yeah,
as well.
And we're already starting to see that. So we are. So within Monkstown Boxing Club, we actually do a holiday. It's called a Holiday Hunger Club. But what we do is, whether it be Easter, Halloween, summer, obviously the kids would rely heavily on free school meals. So we, not all of them, but obviously within the community that we work in and the communities we work in, that's a factor. There's no point of sort of trying to avoid it. But so what we do is we offer lunches. We would cook lunches every day, and then people would just come and thing. But as part of that, there's then young volunteers who's coming in and helping us dish out the food, helping us prepare the food, clean up, all that sort of stuff. And they're already starting to get involved. And a lot of young people are maybe 13, 14, coming in to help with that sort of stuff.
That's great.
Through the development of different groups that they've been involved in throughout. Because we would start quite young. We would start with 8-year-olds, and they would be involved in the summer scheme. And young people would tend to progress into like our drop-in on a Friday night. And then from there, it would then filter into the different groups throughout the evenings and throughout the afternoons and the school support and all that sort of stuff. And then eventually, and we don't ever expect the young person to volunteer or come back and do anything for us, but they always seem to come back and want to get involved in Monkstown Boxing Club somewhere or another.
Great.
Whether it be helping out with the junior boxing, so maybe just being there to support and make sure that everything's okay, or whether it be volunteering in a group. In my additional needs group on a Wednesday night, I had 2 volunteers with me. I had 2 amazing volunteers with me who came and gave up their time every single Wednesday night.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
The young people, I don't know, they just want to be part of the club, and I think that's one thing that Monkstown Boxing Club is really good at. Is just getting the young people in and showing them that sort of support and love, that so much that they feel confident and safe enough that no matter what age they are, they can still come and be part of it regardless.
Yeah. So if I wasn't sitting here and it was the communities minister, so if the communities minister was sitting here, what would be your big ask to do more of this good work?
So obviously, and Monkstown Boxing Club, along with loads of other youth organisations across Northern Ireland, we rely on year-to-year funding. It comes at the end of March every year, and some people don't know if they're going to be there in April. And I think one thing I would ask is, because it's very difficult to plan long-term and plan into the future whenever you're only relying year-to-year. So one thing I would ask is about the possibility of extension, or the ability to long-term plan. So whenever it comes to young people, it's not relying on every financial year. And I think that, I don't know exactly, I would probably have to think about which way I would ask the question, but it'd be along those lines. It'd be along those lines about asking, the ability to, this year to year, it restricts us as organisations. Monkstown Boxing Club as an organisation, which then, without them realising, has an impact on young people, because we can only plan so far. We don't want to plan, and now we try our best to have that plan ahead ready, and we never let the young people know that this is what's going on in the background. But I think it would give us the opportunity to deliver and sort of give more opportunities and more secure opportunities to young people, without having that youth worker's guilt of being like, am I going to be here in April to actually deliver this programme? That's that sort of idea around funding, getting stability, and the ability to plan long term, not just for the organisations, but for the young people.
Yeah.
And having stuff out there that we know it's going to be 2-3 years before we're going to have to be.
Yeah.
So it's being able to plan those programs, those 6 to 9 month programs, and maybe longer. Because what I've found with groups is whenever I first started off in youth work, it was a lot of 6 to 12 week programs. But the young people are starting to appreciate these year and a half programs, where they maybe do some qualifications and maybe do some soft skills like life skills, cooking, all that sort of thing. And they like to build up. So young people are wanting to be engaged longer.
Yeah.
So with having that opportunity to have funding longer, then you're going to have the young people in the door, more involved in the programs, less likely to be involved in antisocial behaviour, less likely to fall into the wrong crowds, less likely to be sitting in their bedroom feeling like they're worthless, things like that there. So the fact that if we had longer programs, it benefits young people's mental health in a positive way. It gives young people a safe space. It just creates that environment where young people are wanting to go to.
Yeah.
So
great. Well, last question is everyone I'm always really interested in to ask the guests is, for you, what's so good about work?
What's so good? So just work
like
in general, or what I do? What I do?
For the work you're doing, like what's so good about your work to you?
So for me personally, I don't feel like what I do is a job. I don't feel that it is work. I genuinely love what I do. It gets me up out of bed every morning. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a human like everyone else. There is times in life where, winter blues and things like that. But I genuinely love what I do. I love going into work every day and seeing the young people that I work with. I'm in a fortunate position amongst the Boxing Club. I work with the mums, the dads, the grannies, the grandas, the kids. I work with everyone. We're part of the community within Monkstown Boxing Club, and I love that. I love going into work every day, and you get you get the wee catch ups with people. You maybe engaging with young people. You're seeing what's going on. You're watching people grow. And for me, for work, I just love that. It doesn't feel like a job to me personally. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't. I genuinely love what I do. Going to work every morning. In the Boxing Club, we're open 9 to 9, Monday to Friday. And some of us varied hours, and there's days I'd be working long hours, and it doesn't. You don't feel like you're actually in work. You don't.
That's great.
And if I was speaking to any young people out there, if you're wanting to get out into the world of work, do something that you love, because if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, as the saying goes. And for me, that's what I've been lucky enough to find, is that I love what I do. And, I'm fortunate in a position where, I've obviously worked to get where I am. And it was a long progress. I'm dyslexic, so I really, really struggled with achieving that higher degree. And I say, bar having my daughter getting a degree is one of my greatest accomplishments. And just the icing on the cake is, now that I've got that degree, I've been able to get in a position where I'm in a job where I genuinely enjoy driving to everyone. It's not a chore.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I love it.
That's great. That's great. And it is, as you said, it's not just work. You've talked about a lot of the people that have been impacted by your work, and all I can say is thank you, because I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, but it's just been great to see the impact that the club is having, but you and the other youth workers are making a real difference in the lives of young people.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just a small part of Monkstown Boxing Club. There's so many more of us in there, and we all work together as a team. The better, so I might be better at one thing than another youth worker, and that youth worker may be better than some other youth worker within Monkstown Boxing Club. But we all work together for the benefit of the young people and the communities that we serve.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for coming in today. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I'm nervous.
Thanks for tuning in to Workplus. If today's story gave you fresh perspective or helped you rethink what's possible, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform or hit like and subscribe. It really does make a big difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to help guide the next generation, visit workplus.app. Until next time.